This video is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. Hello everyone, my name is Ziamaro and welcome to Battlerite Sage. Today I'm kicking off a new series where we take a look at a specific comp and break down why it works, what its strengths are, and slight variations you can make on the comp. Honestly, this isn't the first time I've done a comp spotlight. I've actually done it twice before, once with the Rook meta comp and once with Red Canids comp from BPL. But it's something that a lot of people showed an interest in, so I'd like to do a few more of these. The comp I'd like to talk about today is Jumong and Thorn. This comp is a bit of a staple in the European meta, and with good reason. Jumong has had a habit of weaving his way in and out of the meta depending on what's strong at the time, but when he works, Thorn is an excellent partner for him. If you're wondering why I only mentioned 2 champions, it's not because this is a 2v2 comp, it is a 3v3 comp. It's actually because there are a number of supports that can work with the comp, so I've actually left that out for now. But we will come back to which support you could pick at the end and what the pros and cons are of each one. So first, what is it about this comp that makes it so strong? Thorn and Jumong have a number of synergies, and one of the strengths of this comp is actually how flexible it can be. If the situation calls for it, you can play really safe with this comp. Both Thorn and Jumong have great zoning potential. Jumong has his double rain of arrows, his traps, and long-range projectiles, while Thorn can use entangling roots and mouse 2 from range to poke. And because of those features, he isn't super reliant on going in, so to speak. While some melee champions might need to play aggressively and physically engage into the enemy team, Thorn can actually happily sit back, poke from range, and look for safe engagements with his E into Q combo. This means if the situation calls for it, you can play really defensively if you like. Another great synergy that Thorn and Jumong have is the combination of self-healing and weaken. Both of them have access to a reasonable amount of self-healing. Thorn can leech health with his Thorns debuff and entangling roots, while Jumong has some pretty generous self-healing with his EX mouse 1 and by consuming Seeker's Mark. And on top of that, they each have a weaken effect through Battlerite. Jumong can apply a really beefy weaken-like ability with his traps, and Thorn can apply a smaller weaken with his Thorns debuff when he takes Neurotoxin. This gives them both some great sustain, and it allows them to outtrade their opponents a little more easily. This particular feature of the comp is actually great both for defensive and aggressive play. But at this point you might be thinking that the comp is maybe a little bit too passive, but it actually has some great punish potential too. Thorn and Jumong both have access to an easy to hit stun that's really hard to avoid if you don't have any iframes left. Jumong has his EX mouse 2, with the right of course, and Thorn has his space. Plus they can make it very difficult for you to get away, what with Thorn's ability to pull you back with his Q, plus Jumong's rain of arrows and bear trap. Oh, and remember that weaken-like effect that you get from Bear Trap? This particular effect isn't a regular weaken. A regular weaken would reduce the target's healing output, but this Battlerite actually reduces the healing received. So if you find a punish window and you catch that person in a Bear Trap, they're going to be receiving 50% less healing while they're stuck there. So that makes that small punish window even more, well, punishing. Another thing that makes this comp work is how great Thorn is at peeling for his team. In fact, I would consider him to be one of, if not the best melee for peeling. I mean, he can actually physically pull the opponent off his teammates with his third melee attack, or he can entangle them and then pull the enemy towards him with his Q. In a pinch, he can even just space at them and stun them. And the fact that Thorn is so strong at this is really good news for Jumong. It's pretty well known that Jumong can be a little bit vulnerable in the first moments of a round. Once he has 3 mouse 1 stacks and a bar of energy, he's pretty slippery, but until he gets that, he can be tunneled quite easily. And that's where Thorn comes in. If the enemy plays aggressively and spaces onto the Jumong, it's really easy for Thorn to just entangle them and either pull them away from Jumong, or Jumong can easily land his rain of arrows and a bear trap. Either way, it gives Jumong a ton of space to work with, and if you successfully pull that off, you completely turn the tide. So the comp can be pretty good for anti-aggression too. And let's not forget about Thorn's Husk. Jumong is already quite hard to focus down after he survives the first few seconds, but when you throw Husk into that, it can seem almost impossible to focus him down. The comp isn't without its downsides though. One potential problem with the comp is how reliant it is on the Jumong pulling his weight, or being able to pull his weight. I mean, the whole thing is basically designed to allow Jumong to do his thing. So if Jumong's missing his shots or the enemy's making it hard for him to do so, you might feel like you're lacking damage and pressure. So you need a good Jumong player, and you need that Jumong to not be completely shut down by the enemy. But you do have some control over that thanks to playing Thorn. Anyway, enough about those two. At this point, you're probably asking, well, which support should I play with Jumong and Thorn then? Honestly, pretty much all the supports can work with this comp depending on what you want to achieve. Pestilus, for example, can be pretty good if you want to focus on zoning and CC. Jumong and Thorn already excel in this regard, so when you throw Pestilus into the mix, it's almost impossible for the enemy to avoid everything. And he also provides some decent burst healing and damage. If, on the other hand, you want a lot of extra firepower, you could throw Alder in. He does some pretty great damage, and he also adds another pseudo weaken to the comp with his dehydration right. On top of that, he can prevent the enemy range DPS from poking your team by throwing his EXQ down. Another option could be Xander. Xander can add some extra damage reduction with his Hearts buff, and he can amplify burst windows with Arcane Catalyst. He can also provide some extra CC with Sheep Trick, and most importantly, he can portal Thorn or Jumong out when they run out of cooldowns. Although Xander is weaker than he once was, he does have the benefit of keeping the comp quite flexible. Paloma can be a good pick if you want to accentuate the defensive capabilities of the comp. Just like with Xander, she has her get out of jail free card for her team with other side. On top of that, Thorn and Jumong are both very easy for her to heal, so she can output some insane healing with Spirit Link. She can also help peel melee off Jumong with her Panic, and while she's perhaps one of the safer options, she can actually still put out some great damage with Wolf and Pixie. But my personal favourite for this comp would have to be Lucy. Just like with Jumong, she can be a little vulnerable at the start of the game, but thanks to Thorn and Jumong's zoning and peeling capabilities, she should be fairly well protected. And the payoff for keeping her protected is her incredibly versatile kit. One of her best abilities is of course her Clarity Potion, one of only 2 abilities in the game that can remove buffs from the enemy. If the enemy Paloma tries to bail her team out with other side, you just remove it. If the enemy Croak goes stealth for a stun, you just pop him right back out of it. Needless to say, a well-timed Clarity Potion is insane. On top of that, she can provide a damage amp with her heals, extra peeling and CC with her Panic or Petrify, a huge shield, and probably the best ultimate in the game for punishing mistakes. You chuck that thing on someone with no cooldowns and they're going to take an insane amount of damage, both from the ultimate and the fact that they're slowed, making them easier to hit with follow-up damage. Combine that with Thorn's ult on someone who has no cooldowns left and yeah, they're toast. All in all, the Thorn and Jumong comp can be a lot of fun to play. It's not necessarily the easiest comp to pull off, but its flexibility is almost unparalleled by other comps. Especially when you throw Lucy into the mix, you have a comp that can deal with almost anything your opponent throws at you. As always, if you have anything to add, feel free to share it down below. Otherwise, let me know down in the comments what comps you'd like to see covered next. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please feel free to subscribe for more Battlerite guides, news, and discussion. If you'd like to help support the channel and get some unique rewards, then head over to patreon.com/battleritesage. And don't forget to check out twitch.tv/battleritesage. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.